Hey everyone, it's Melissa from Welcome to the Woods. In this video, you're going to help me prepare our new nursery for the baby that I have due in August. I'm going to show you the accent wall that I did, as well as the beautiful new furniture that we have sponsored by Modern Nursery. The first thing I did in this room was apply trim along the baseboards. It actually didn't have any trim on it, and this room had been used as my daughter Lily's room, kind of destroyed by her, to be honest, before I got my hands on it. So obviously I finished her new galaxy room downstairs, and it was time to get to work on this space. Here I'm going to be starting my accent wall, but you can see that my 1x2 strip is going to interfere with where the outlet plate is. So I marked where to cut, and then I used a oscillating multi-tool to get that little notch cut out of there. This maybe would have been easier with a router, but I don't have my router hooked up to a table, so I just did this quick in the space. So many of my projects lately have involved a heavy amount of trim work and finish work, so I'm really happy to say that I've learned a lot and I'm starting to get pretty good. This fit perfect on the outlet. I had to do it on one other outlet as well. But this 1x2 I'm attaching into the studs actually with finish nails that are 2.5 inches long. The walls in our house are actually plaster and lath, so I wanted to make sure I used long enough nails that it actually hit the wood studs in the wall. I'm going to be putting 5 of these slats up, and I cut a 1x4 as a spacer so that each of them were parallel, you can see here. And each one I measured individually and cut individually because the ceiling wasn't like perfectly straight across. Living in an old house, all the walls are wonky and you have to measure twice, cut once for sure. The material I'm using is actually MDF. These 1x2s were cheaper than if I bought a 1x2 out of lumber because lumber prices are crazy right now. So each of these cost about $2.30 some cents. It was a very affordable way to get an accent wall in here. So then I filled in all the nail holes with drywall compound. This stuff dries really fast and sands perfectly smooth and flush, which I love. Then when it was dry, I sanded it, wiped off the dust and debris, and then I caulked all of the edges, all the seams. I caulked my new baseboards down below. When the caulk was dry, I overpainted on my baseboard color and wall color so that then I could lay down yellow tape and do my perfect paint line tape trick. If you haven't seen this before, be sure to check out my video, How to Paint a Room Like a Pro, where I talk about how to get perfectly crisp paint lines using painter's tape and a layered paint approach. So once I had the whole area for the accent color taped off, what I did was paint over the tape with the baseboard color here because that seals the tape with the paint and allows the bleed through to be a color that I'm okay with. But where the wall was, I had to use the wall color, which was a light gray, and then back to the window trim, I used white again. So you just paint whatever color the tape is on, and then you can paint your accent color, which is going to be a very bright blue in my case, just sloppily over the tape, and you're still going to end up with a perfect paint line. The paint color I'm using is actually the same as the blue I did in my daughter Lily's galaxy room. Using the same paint color is just basically going to prevent me from having to buy more, as well as make my home's design feel a little more cohesive because that color continues from the downstairs bedroom to this upstairs bedroom. You can find all my recommendations for my favorite painting products as well as paint colors in the description on this video. Here I'm using a Wooster mini roller, and yes, I am painting over the outlet. I would not typically recommend this, but I don't plan to use this outlet really at all, and I wanted it to blend in. So finally, after the second coat was dry for about an hour-ish, it was time to remove the tape, and I absolutely love how this tape method allows me to, like, even an area like this, which would be super hard to cut in, very slow going, this tape method allows me to just easily pull it off and have a perfect crisp line. So to make this accent wall really stand out and be something special, I decided I'm going to do a name cutout. Here I have my laptop hooked up with an HDMI cord to a mini projector, and the projector is showing an image of my text design onto this thin sheet of Yucca board or hardboard. This was also left over from Lily's room makeover, where I covered all the walls in this to fix the crumbling plaster. This piece, I'm just getting my projector in focus. This piece is going to become a name cutout because it's nice and thin. The material is strong, but it's slightly flexible, which is important because I'm going to be attempting to cut this on my scroll saw. Projecting the text onto my material and just tracing it was really the easiest and fastest way for me to get my text as perfectly as possible. I could have freehanded this, but I didn't want to, and I guess I could have printed it and used transfer paper, but I don't even own a printer, so this was my method and it worked quite well. This went pretty quickly, and then it was time to cut it out. This is definitely the most intricate design I've ever cut on my scroll saw, and my scroll saw is actually a vintage tool that I got handed down to me from my grandpa-in-law. I would imagine this maybe would have been easier with a newer saw, so I have a recommendation for you if you're interested in scroll saw work in the description on this video. You can see first I cut off a lot of the excess, and then I drilled holes on the insides of the letters, stuck my saw blade through, and cut the insides out first. Those tend to be the weakest areas. Next, I carefully danced the text around the blade to come and cut from every which way and get each of these scrolled letters sliced out of the Yucca board. Now, this was actually very time consuming. This took me 4 hours to cut out. But I absolutely love the way that it turned out. Now I'm going to shoot it with some spray paint. I'm using Rust-Oleum's Imagine in white linen. It's like a chalk finish spray paint. And when that was dry, I got to work on the next name. This is baby's first name. Here I am measuring and tracing out the blocky letters on a thick maple panel that I got secondhand from a cabinet maker. This was a reject piece. So it's about 3/4 inches thick. And this definitely would not work on my scroll saw because my scroll saw blade wasn't big enough. So I cut it with my table saw. I also used my jigsaw significantly, and I just did my best. This was also very time consuming. The 4 letters in baby's first name also took me 4 hours to cut out. When I was using my jigsaw, I did a clamp system with a straight edge just to get the letter to look as perfect as possible. It's not perfect. I mean, maybe if I had a laser cutting machine, I could have done that. But I personally feel like it was worth all of the time and effort to get this handmade for the wall because it just makes it extra special. After cutting the letters, I gave everything a light sand with a 220 grit sandpaper wrapped around a 2x4 block. Next, I coated each letter in this Varathane wood stain in the color American Walnut. And I did this overnight, so I'm sorry the lighting is bad. This is just me in my garage slapping on stain real quick because I wanted it to dry overnight so that I could work with it the next day. And as you might have guessed by now, the baby's first name is going to be Liam. My husband and I were between the two names William and Andrew with the nicknames Liam and Drew. We knew the middle name was going to be Timothy, so our Instagram audience actually helped me pick it. I had you guys vote, so if you don't follow me on Instagram, then be sure to go do that. The link is again in the description. Just go follow that if you want to see more of the personal side and behind the scenes stuff of Welcome to the Woods. Okay, now to hang the name on my wall, I'm going to shoot some little tiny 1-inch long brad nails into my MDF slats that I did for the accent wall through the Timothy scrolled name. This one, like I said, is very lightweight, cut out of Yucca board, so it's only 1/8 inch thick. And this stuff should be held up very easily with just these 3 little nails at the edge of the T, 2 in the O, and the edge of the Y. I specifically cut this name out big enough to span 3 of the slats. Because I added the slats onto the accent wall, it posed a problem for me in getting the name mounted because obviously the wall isn't even. So on the big blocky letters that make up Liam, I'm going to be doing a spacer trick with some hardware. I came up with this in the hardware store. I bought these screws that have a pointy edge and then a bolt on the other edge. And here I'm using a metal cutting blade on my multi-tool to snip them down shorter because the bolt edge is actually going to be poking into my blocky maple letters, and then the screw edge, which has a wider thread, is going to be put into the wall. And I'm going to try and catch the laugh with that so that it's in the wood or a stud or whatever I can do in order to get this bolt through and secure to mount the letters. Once my screw bolt combos were cut to the right length, then I used a metal spacer. You can see it here. It's like a smooth metal piece, and this is a similar concept to like floating house numbers, where the metal spacer is the same depth as the MDF slat, so when I mount the letter, everything will lay flush. Now, I'm going to take a 4-foot level. I'm going to mark the height of each letter that I want to mount it, just so that when I hang the letters, the whole name is level. It doesn't look like it's sinking down. In order for me to line up the holes where I need to drill onto the letter, I actually dabbed a little bit of paint on the end of each of the bolts. And I used like a bright green paint so it was very clear. Then I placed my letter against the hardware and against the wall right where I wanted it to be. I measured out to make sure they're all equal distance and that they're centered on the accent wall, and of course that they're aligned with my level line on the top. Now when I flip it over, the 2 little green dots show me exactly where I need to drill. So I don't have a drill press. All as I did was I used a piece of painter's tape at the depth that I needed to drill on my drill bit. And my drill bit is just barely bigger than the size of the bolt. So the hole that I drill should be the perfect size for the bolt to hold the letter on the wall securely. Then all that was left was to line up the holes that I drilled with the bolt sticking out of the wall against the spacers, and the letter was mounted. On most of them I did shoot a tiny brad nail through where it hit the MDF slat as well. So the next thing to do in this room was to finish up trim work. So it has a drop ceiling like most of the rooms in my house. That's how they got wiring to almost all the ceilings. So I couldn't take it out in this room, but I decided to do a trick to mount this inside cove. I'm going to cut these little blocks for the corners so that I don't have to cut compound miters like when I installed my crown molding. Even when you're using trim this small, since it's getting installed with a 45-degree angle, you need to make complicated cuts unless you do a shortcut like this. And since the trim is so tiny and I'm going to paint it the same color as the wall, I didn't think these little blocks were noticeable, but it saved me a lot of time. I also came through and painted the baseboards that I installed. I want to share another trick with you. Use a 20-inch drywall knife when you're painting baseboards, especially on carpet. This works well because you can shove the knife all the way under the trim and then you don't have to use tape or drop cloths. This doesn't work so well when the trim is flush to the floor because you have to wipe off the bottom of your drywall knife each time. But man, it's satisfying when your trim work turns out nicely and you didn't waste much material. Just look at that tape peel. Finally, it was time for the part I'm the most excited about, which is new furniture. I was so picky looking for baby furniture, you guys, not gonna lie. I wanted something modern and stylish, something that fit my home, and I found the company Babyletto. I loved their stuff, and I was able to work with the e-commerce site Modern Nursery to secure a crib and a glider, and then the mattress for my baby. Sponsored. So they gifted this to me, and I definitely would recommend their site simply because they have the most stylish luxury baby furniture and baby gear with a focus around like eco-friendly brands as well as excellent customer service. So be sure to check them out in the link in the description, and thank you so much to Babyletto and Modern Nursery for working with me. The crib is gorgeous. I actually designed the whole room around it because of the white and walnut combination, and it's so modern. I love it. It's way better than the crib that I had for my other 3 babies, which of course my youngest is 5, so I sold it a long time ago. But yeah, I just think that little Liam is going to be spoiled rotten in this new nursery. So here I'm just putting some finishing touches in the room, little plants and things, and you can see a sneak peek of the glider that I got as well. And I also picked out rugs for this room. My Instagram audience helped pick between 2 different styles for that as well. Finally, this room was done, and the first thing I did was sit back and relax in my new recliner. So the Kiwi glider recliner, it swivels and glides, but it's also an eco-performance fabric. So I got the cream color, not worried about it because it has like the Live Smart Performance fabric where it doesn't stain nearly as easily. It's also made from at least 50 recycled plastic bottles and 30% Reprieve recycled polyester yarn, so it's very eco-friendly. It's power automated, so I just have it plugged in the back, and then those buttons allow me to recline or put the recliner down. It also has a USB charging port for my phone, which is so great. So I think I'm going to be spending so much time in this chair. The wall itself turned out amazing, and here I'm just styling the Scoot crib that I just assembled with a little blankie, and it looks beautiful, I think, with the rug that we picked out. I love how the whole room came together, especially the scrolled name, because it took me so much time and it was such a labor of love. The blue accent wall really pulls in a vibrant color. It's very masculine. I think little Liam Timothy is going to be so comfortable in here, especially with our new furniture. The mattress that Babyletto gave me in the Scoot crib is also very eco-friendly, and it's breathable, so it's safe for baby. I love that too. Don't forget to check out Babyletto's furniture selection at Modern Nursery's website, linked in the description on this video. I love how this room turned out. I hope you guys did too. Don't forget to let me know in a comment below what you thought. And thank you so much for watching Welcome to the Woods. We'll catch you again next time. I'm in the nursery room.
Mom, let me snuggle in your bed.
Why don't you come sit on my lap? You can come snuggle with me right now.
Right.
How are you? Oh, I love you. What were you watching?
I can't really. I don't remember.
Marva.
Yeah.
I love you so much. You want to read a book? We can snuggle in my bed and read a book.
Yeah, let's just snuggle in your bed.
No book? I like books though. And you like books.
Pretty please.
Okay.
Whoa.
I'll be right there.
Let me see in your bed.